This is Rugby Unity. I am David Pembroke, and tomorrow we will bring you the latest Rugby Unity podcast with Ewan McKenzie and Eddie Jones as we look back on what was a remarkable weekend of rugby and look forward again to what is happening in the world of rugby in the weeks ahead. But for today, a program with a difference. I caught up a couple of weeks ago with Pete Murray, the Australian singer-songwriter who has sold over 1.2 million albums, a chart-topping, a career spanning decades. His music has really been a soundtrack to Australian life. Now, Pete used to play rugby and has a great story to tell. And the reason that we're telling his story is that communications and culture is changing. Sport is becoming very much a part of music, of entertainment, of fashion, of art, as I say, of culture. And we need to talk more about the personalities in our game, the people who love our game, who are just not playing the game, but are great supporters of it. And Pete Murray is a great supporter of rugby, and he has a great rugby story to tell. So if you've got or know of other people who are perhaps notable in other walks of life who you'd like us to talk about, where we can talk about their passions for rugby, please let us know at info@rugbyunity.com.au. But for today, sit back and enjoy my conversation with Pete Murray. Pete Murray, welcome to Rugby Unity.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The beginning's always a pretty good place to start, and your association with the game of rugby. So take us back to those earliest days when you started kicking a ball around.
Well, I'll take you back even further. When I grew up in a small country town called Chinchilla. It was a rugby league town.
Yeah.
And so my two passions were, I was kind of good at three sports: swimming, athletics, and footy. Swimming was probably the least favourite. But that went as soon as I left school. That was kind of over and done with. But still loved the 400 and the 800 metres. That was my race. And I loved footy. So going from country town, I went to Nudgee boarding school in Brisbane, grade 11 and 12. And that's where I was introduced to rugby union. And I'd never played it before. I remember at the first trial, the guys there, I kind of had a bit of an understanding about it, but I remember saying, what are the pockets for in these shorts? You know, they sort of, because I was playing on the wing at that stage, they said, just pop your hands in there while there's nothing going on. I was like, oh, okay, right, yeah, stood there like this. But I loved it, you know what I mean? The freedom you had to go and play rugby, and I didn't understand how big it was. That's the thing for me. Growing up in Chinchilla in a small country town, if we were to get, 100 people, parents, to come and see you play, that was a pretty massive crowd. And I rocked up at Nudgee and made the first 15 in the first year, but I didn't really know how big a deal this was. The first trial game we had about like 2,000 or 3,000 people there. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is kind of pretty incredible. And made my first touch, I threw a dummy, went through a gap and set the winger up for a try. And after that, everyone just accepted you so quickly, into the rugby community and into the first 15 as well. So, but from there, just it got bigger when you started to play the competition against the other GPS schools was insane.
And the cultural elements of it and that schoolboy rugby culture, we see great examples of it, not only here in Australia, but South Africa, New Zealand, in the UK, in France. How did you come to understand what rugby stood for as a game, given that you'd come from rugby league, which is a similar type game, but then you were a part of this much larger, bigger global sport?
Yeah, it was a real community and a real brotherhood. I found that as soon as you got accepted into that, it was incredible. The guys even just at the school days, because I went to Nudgee. Paul McLean was there, and the last time they won the premiership was 72, I think it was, and I was playing in 86, and we won that grade 11. We won the premiership. Next minute, Paul McLean's there. I remember Paul McLean, thinking, well, it's Paul McLean here, So it was just big seeing these legends of the game that were still coming and supporting and seeing the younger guys come through, So, but I guess the friendships you make in those days and at school and even after school, I played with some pretty amazing players. In 87, I was lucky to make the Queensland schoolboys team, and that had Tim Horan and Jason Little. And playing outside those guys was pretty incredible, you know. So Timmy still catches up with me occasionally, and you know we keep in touch. And he popped over to my place one day and just did a little quick interview with me as well for the rugby. So you know, just you have those bonds with those guys that you have from rugby days, you know, and it just doesn't go away.
And so was the plan to keep going, playing at that level? Queensland Schoolboys is an elite level, and as you say, playing with two of the greats, Horan and Little, who went on to, you know, great success at multiple World Cups with the Wallabies. Did you have your eyes on the Wallabies?
I did, yeah. I had two goals. I loved athletics, was a passion, and the 800 was probably what I was best at. So, and I sort of had I came out of school and I did athletics for a year, and then sort of came back to rugby and went back to athletics again. And I was still keen to kind of take athletics as far as I could because I had a real passion for it. And I think I was 19. I went and ran at the Commonwealth Games trials. My goal was just to make the final, but I had I got a flu or something a week before, and I bombed out really badly. So, and it wasn't too long before that I sort of came back and played a bit of rugby again. And it wasn't too long before I thought to myself in athletics, I don't think I'm going to make it in athletics because I liked having a beer.
Right.
Where the other athletes in the 800, they weren't drinking too much. So I'm like, I might try this, go back to rugby again because it's a little bit more social, you know. So
they do like a beer in rugby.
Lots of you know, drinking games and lots of fun when you finish the games.
Yeah.
So I kind of started to really blend into that. But I was really keen to see how far I could go in that. And what I found that I was really good at was the sevens because I'd come off an athletics background. So I had the fitness to go and had the skill to play. So back in 92 it was. There was a chance of making the Australian. It's a bit of a funny story actually. Chance of making the Australian sevens team to go and play in Hong Kong. And back then it was kind of a stepping stone to try and get into the Wallabies. You know, a lot of guys did it that way because it wasn't really a separate sport at that stage.
No, that's right.
So, and I guess for me, after coming off athletics, I had this fitness base that the other guys didn't have. So I remember playing, you know, certain games of sevens, and I remember got to the stage where towards the end of the game, the guys just get that tired, they just kick it. And I just run through and pick the ball up and score because no one would chase it, you know. So you just had that fitness to go the whole time. But anyway, 92 it was. I was playing some good footy back and really loving it, and having a go at the sevens. And I thought I set my sights on trying to make this Hong Kong sevens team if I can. So I played in a few tournaments and it was doing pretty well. I played one in Brisbane. Jeff Miller and Mark Elliott, two of the selectors, and Bob Dwyer was the third. And so Jeff Miller came up to me and said, "Look, mate, you're playing some great sevens. We really think you're a chance of making this Australian side. Would you be interested in going and playing in front of Bob? Because Bob's the main guy. We've got to get you in front of him." And I thought, yeah, for sure. I'm totally up for it. I had injured my knee that day. So I said, look, it was in a couple of weeks' time. And I said, look, if Bob's interested, get him to call me. Here's my home number, because back then I didn't have a mobile. Get him to give me a call, and I'll strap this up, take painkillers, whatever I need to do, I'll be there. If I don't hear from him, I'll just go back to the physio and just work on it, and maybe come back towards, when the season's happening again. So anyway, I was living with my sister at the time. So I remember the weekend came for the tournament, and I didn't hear from Bob, and I was kind of disappointed. So I thought that was,
Was that down in Sydney? It was
in Sydney.
One of the sevens tournaments down in Sydney.
There, yeah.
Right.
And I think they were forming maybe a Queensland rep team to go down there and play in that.
Right.
And so I thought, great opportunity. Anyway, I didn't hear from Bob, so I kind of thought, well, he's obviously not interested, or they're looking at someone else. So I didn't think too much more of it until 2 days after the event, and my sister said to me, someone called for you last week. And I said, who was that? And she said, Bob someone. The feeling that went through, I was like going, so it wasn't Bob Dwyer. She said, yeah, that's him, Bob Dwyer.
Nice bloke.
Oh, yeah, he's a great fella. And I just went, that was my opportunity, because I didn't call him back. And, you kind of, if you don't call
first impressions,
you don't call Bob Dwyer back.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of, for me, I was like, that was all over. Anyway, by the end of the year, I came back and I started playing again. I thought, I'll get ready for the next year. Let's hope that Bob forgets about me and then I'll have a chance. And
Still focusing on the sevens?
I was still focusing on the sevens, yeah. I still had this fitness base and I was still looking for, that was my sort of opportunity to get into that. By the end of the year, I played at the Byron Bay Sevens.
Yep.
And I did my anterior cruciate. And that was it for that year. And I never really got back.
Right. Did you try to get back, or that's a nasty.
Yeah, my knee. I could show you a party trick at my knee. It's loose, and it just really wasn't good. So I did sort of have a go at coming back later, but before I did that, I went overseas, took a break, and that's when I sort of picked up a guitar and things changed. So when I came back, I was ready to sort of have a go at rugby again, but the knee just really wasn't where it was. Anyway, years later, 2007, and the Wallabies asked me to come over and play a show for them at the 2007 World Cup in Paris. So I go over there and play a couple of songs for the guys, and Bob's there. I've never spoken to Bob, So I go up to Bob, and I'm thinking he would not have a clue, about years ago. And I just thought he would just know me as a musician now. Yeah. So I said, "Hey, Bob, nice to meet you. Years ago, before I could go any further," he said, "I remember you. You never called." I'm like, okay, righty. So I had to explain the whole story. We had a good laugh about it. It was one of those moments that, during my tour now, I talk about,
Sure.
luck and fate, and when you, what do you believe in? Luck and
fate? Do you ever think, what if? Because when you think about the pathway of sevens back then, that was the pathway for the Campese, pathway for lots of other elite players who went through sevens into 15s.
I do think about it. I do think about it.
I could have done that.
No, I was playing some great footy. I still had a lot of skill in the game, and everything just, what I was doing was just working in that game. Every kick through I'd get through would bounce back into my hands. It was just a time when everything was working, and it was kind of, I thought, this is destined. This is going to happen now, And it just didn't. But like I said, talk about luck and fate. And for me, that fate sort of took me and pushed me. A few things pushed me towards music around that time, and the years following as well. It's just like how I ended up into music was quite a funny thing. So
tell me that story, because it sounds that you said that in recovery around your knee, you picked up a guitar.
Yeah, I had a.
Had you never picked up a guitar before?
No. I was 22, late 20, 21, I think I might have been 22. And I was living with a friend of mine. He was studying teaching and I was studying natural medicine, because my whole life was sport. So I thought, when I finish playing rugby or athletics, I want to work with sportsmen and women and help them treat their injuries. And that's where I was heading down that path. And then, so this guy's name was Charlie. He came in our room. He was super excited. He said, "You know what? I'm going to go get a guitar lesson. I've always wanted to play the guitar, so I'm going to go and to do it." And at that moment, I thought, that sounds really cool. Like, I've never thought about playing music. It's not been in my family. So I thought, maybe I'll go and have some lessons as well. So as it turns out, I went and had some lessons, but he never did. And then from there, for the next 2 years, I pretty much just sat at home in my room, whenever I had spare time, and just taught myself how to play the guitar. And from
Did you have a plan then? Did you have a vision? Did you think, I can turn this into something? Or
no plan at all.
Just a love. Just found a love for it.
Love for it, and just playing covers. I was happy to do that. So that was really all it was at that stage. Just this passion I'd never had before, and so I loved it. And I was still looking at finishing off the studies and going down that path. And as I kind of kept going, I injured my knee then. That's when I started playing guitar. I went overseas. This is what happened. So I went overseas, took a year off, went over there, and just so happens I was living in London in a 2-bedroom apartment with 19 other Aussies, which is backpacking back in the day. And so another mate of mine who
was it as horrendous as it sounds?
It was pretty horrendous, yeah. I only stayed there for a little while. But one of my good mates that I'd met through rugby as well was Angus McDonald. And Angus also formed a band called Sneaky Sound System. So Angus had been playing since he was a kid. And I'd only been playing for a couple of years at this stage. So we were there one night and we got the guitars out and started playing some songs for the the other 17. And he'd play an original and I'd play a cover, and he'd play an original and I'd play a cover. And one of the girls just simply said, "Look, you play us one of the songs that you've written." And I was like, "Oh, I don't write songs, you know." Yeah. And she was like, "Why not?" I said, I don't know, never thought about it. She said, "Well, you should." And it was that simple remark that made me go, "Well, maybe I will," you know. And that, as I travelled through Europe, I just met buskers and I started to write songs. Wrote some pretty bad ones, but it was a start in you know going down that path. And when I came back to Australia, I really had this more of a bug for playing the guitar. So and the knee just wasn't really working. I did sort of come back and play a half a season, but it just wasn't the same. And so it's just kind of funny how these things kind of happen. You know, I got back into Australia and then I got more into songwriting. And then years went by and I ended up recording my first independent album at the age of 30, which is pretty old for the music business. I remember doing interviews back then when people were going, "Look, you know, what do you think about the theory that people say if you haven't made it in the music industry by the time you're 24, you're never going to make it?" And I kind of thought, well, that's bullshit. You know, like, I mean, you write a good song, it's a good song, isn't it? You know, so I wasn't a pop act. So, you know, and I think then, you know, the rest is kind of history. I, you know, wrote some songs and they got released, got a label deal and everything changed. But the one thing I will say about having that rugby crowd and that friendship of mates, I remember early days playing some of those bars in Brisbane. I remember the venue owners were so happy with me because they said, "Mate, your crowd is so good. They're such big drinkers." You know, I said, "Yeah." Yep. So I was getting gigs that, you know, you'd ring up places, "Yeah, we'll take you." You know, are your fans coming in? They're not really fans, but they're my mates. But they would drink so much alcohol. These bars were making so much money, and they helped me kind of get a real sort of step up in the Brisbane scene where I could sort of then go. Yeah. From there, I went down to Melbourne and made things happen.
So you're busy. You've got, you know, this year, you know, an enormous tour. You've been on the road since very early in the year. Yeah. Do you get time to watch the rugby? Do you stay connected to it?
I have.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I got Stan. You know, and you know, it's funny. I went off it for a while, and I was struggling. I felt like the referees were really kind of blowing up the game. So much it was just like stop, start, and I just lost interest. And so then Tim Horan came around to my place and he was doing a little chat with me, and he said, "Let's just talk about the Queensland team we've got at the moment." You know, and I said, "Timmy, I actually don't really know a lot of the players here," because he said, "Well, who's your favourite player?" And I went, and I realised I've just sort of lost touch with it. And he said, "Get on to Stan Sport." So I did, and from there, man, I've just been, you know, watching the last, you know, so many years of it. It's been great getting back into the game again and loving it. You know, for me, seeing the Aussie team at the moment really starting to do well, it's great.
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah.
What do you like about the way the Australian team's playing at the moment?
They've just got so many great players at the moment, but I felt for a long time we hadn't had the size in the forward pack where we've got that now. You know, we got the power and the toughness to take it to these other sides, which is great. There's some big guys in there. Skelton's a huge man. Mate, it's a big pack. But being a winger, I'm kind of I like the backs. You know, so for me. Jorgensen is on fire at the moment, and Toole, they're exciting. I thought that last test against South Africa was great, even though we lost it.
It was good to see Toole, wasn't it? Like, he's played so well for the Brumbies over a number of seasons, to then be able to step up to Test match rugby and play the same way. He didn't get overawed. He applied himself exactly the same way, chased the kicks, had that incredible pace,
lightning fast.
Yeah,
and I think, especially against the South African team, you need to have the pace out there. I was impressed with him for that first game.
And Jorgensen is mercurial, isn't he? When you think just a young man, not long out of school, can't not score a try, it seems, in every
I know.
match. The ball finds him.
Everything's working for him at the moment, but that's great. He's in a great purple patch at the moment. But it's great watching these guys. Like I said, I'm a winger, and I always watch wingers, what they do. It's just like that's my spot, and I'm really impressed with those guys. But there's so much depth in the wingers as well in this country. So and the fullbacks, so it's a great back line too.
And what about the game more broadly? Its appeal. You're on the road. You're talking to people. Are you getting a bit of a vibe that people are coming back to the game? Did the Lions tour bring people?
Oh, definitely.
Kick the interest back up a little.
Well, I was talking to Tim again to say that maybe we could try and get some entertainment happening at the game, and at the Lions test to sort of just have something outside the game, not inside the main game, the grounds, but outside. So you got the people you get them going. You have some sing-along stuff happening, so they've got this vibe and this culture of music as well as the rugby. So when they go to the game, they're already pumped up and they're ready to go. But the guy that stage was a bit late talking to the guys. Phil Ward at that stage was like, we've got.
Yes,
we don't need
settled.
This. That's done, But I kind of thought that'd be a nice thing to have in the game if we can get that to happen. It doesn't have to be me, but anyone. Just have that music side of it where you just got this crowd that's getting a vibe going before the game, a big sing along, and then they come and watch the game. It's even more exciting. But that was great. Getting the Lions. That was. I thought we should have won that, to be honest. If I could say that. To lose that in the second test when that happened. What do you think? Was that a?
Oh, I don't know. I can't get too. I can't get too jazzed about it. I just think that the clean out is an important part of the game. Yeah. He did everything he possibly could. Yeah. I think everyone at the game thought it was fair enough, and that they won, and we just weren't good enough to hold on. I think in the end.
Maybe it's just me.
But it is interesting, isn't it? You mentioned this sort of. Sport, culture, art, fashion, music, it's all starting to technology sort of blowing apart these various domains that used to sit apart, but they're now sort of converging in this sort of large group of culture, really. It probably comes under that heading of culture. And then how do we bring music closer, to rugby?
Because the music industry's struggling at the moment. So it's a hard time in Australia to make money out of music. It's very difficult. But if we can get some rugby crowds coming to support these artists, then drinking at the bar, then we're going to get happy owners. So look, no, I think that's just a joke. But I think I would love to see it if we can get at the games, even in the Super Rugby, having music involved in that, but not on the ground. I find it on the ground, it's a bit lame.
Yeah.
Shouldn't say that.
Yeah, but try to find those authentic integrations.
Where you want to have this crowd, whether it's in the car park or somewhere that's close by, and they can go and they can see an artist play and a decent band, I mean, go and see them live. But, when you're in the stadium, it just doesn't have that same vibe. Everyone's ready for the game. Yeah. And they come on and have that, the pre, and it's like people are ready at that stage for the rugby game. They want to see that. But all beforehand in the afternoon, getting everyone just getting that life happening.
It's been a busy year for you so far, the acoustic tour, but you've got an album to release, and then you're going again. So it doesn't end.
No, I know you think I'm getting older now. You think I'll be slowing down a bit, but I think for me, I've been with the record label for 20 years, and I've sort of left those guys 6 or 7 years ago now. So I'm all about. I've re-recorded a lot of my old songs to own the masters. I think what people don't understand is, they're starting to understand a little bit more because Taylor Swift did this first, is that a lot of the artists don't own the masters, and that is whoever paid for the recording owns those songs. And there's the other side of it of music is the publishing, the songwriting. So it's 50-50. Whoever recorded it, whoever paid for the recording owns that, and the other 50 is the songwriting. So I own the songwriting, but I don't own those songs. I own a small portion of that. And for me, I sort of feel passionate that every artist should have ownership over their masters. So I've done that, and I've re-recorded an acoustic album as well to represent this tour that I'm doing, which is once again owning those old songs, acoustic versions. And then I've decided to do another new album as well. So there's a lot going on, which will probably take me into next year as well, with releasing lots of old material and the new stuff coming out towards the end of the year as well. So yeah, busy time.
Well, Pete Murray, thanks very much for joining us on Rugby Unity. I hope you're not too busy that you can't keep up with the rugby, and look forward to listening to your new music and supporting the Wallabies, hopefully through a successful end of 2025.
Yeah, I think it's positive now, and I think probably from the I guess where having those struggles over the last few years with the Wallabies and where they are now, there's so much support out there for them, and I think it's probably a good thing that happened, and they wouldn't have had the support now they've got. I don't think so. It's great. Feels good, especially getting the World Cup at home soon. It'll be great.
Bring on 2027.
I know. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dave.
So there you go. What a great conversation with a great Australian, and what a talented guy. And I wonder if he'd ever taken that call from Bob Dwyer, or if indeed Pete's sister had ever handed it on. The note, that is, whether or not he would have gone on to become an elite professional player. We'll never know, but certainly his music lives on, and he is a great entertainer. And I like his idea about bringing music to the stadium. So not so much the on-the-field stuff, but really becoming part of the build-up. And I think that's something that perhaps we can think about as we work towards the Rugby World Cup in Australia in 2027. Now, the third voice, which is you, is vitally important to Rugby Unity. Our mission is pretty clear. We're here to try to help secure the future prosperity of rugby union around the world. And the reason we're doing that is because the game is broke. We need to find out different ways to find more people in more countries to care more about the game of rugby, so we can grow the game, so we've got more money to invest in the women's game, in the second tier, in developing nations, in player pathways, in paying our players, both men and women, what they deserve, and indeed to get junior pathways right as well. There is so much investment that is required because the game of rugby is just so massive. So we really do need to think differently about the way that we take our story to the world and indeed to the commercial world. So listen, please, a like, a follow, a subscribe, a comment, anything that shows that you're engaging and that you're liking our content. It does help us to be found, and it does help us to grow. Since August, we have doubled in size in terms of the number of people who are visiting our Rugby Unity platform across our podcast, our Substack, and our socials. So a big thanks to all of you. But please, if you can spread the word, it helps us to grow, and it helps us to build out what we hope is going to be a sustainable commercial model. We haven't landed on it just yet, but certainly we do have to do that in the days and weeks and months ahead. So the third voice is so vitally important. So please, if you could, leave us not only, as I say, a like, a comment, a share, a subscribe, a whatever, but also a comment and questions. We really do appreciate you asking those questions, and it just helps to bring the program to life and helps to ground it in what the community is looking for. And when we've got access to two of the greatest coaches in the game, in Ewan McKenzie and Eddie Jones, but also Emily Chancellor and Bella McKenzie, the opportunity to ask those Wallaroos players questions, it does help to enrich the engagement with our audience. So a big thanks to you who have done that so far. And please, don't be shy. Reach out. So anyway, a great chat with Pete Murray. Delighted that he was able to spend some time with us when he was in town recently. But for the moment, my name is David Pembroke. Please be kind to each other, and it's bye for now.